She was just another single mom, fighting to make ends meet in a world that seemed designed to push her down. When she walked into the car dealership, hoping for a chance to secure a reliable car for her kids, she never expected to be humiliated and rejected. But the universe had a strange way of working. The next day, the very same dealership was taken by surprise when her billionaire ex-husband drove in, his Rolls-Royce gleaming like a symbol of power, money, and revenge. What happened next would turn everything she knew about her past and her future upside down. Sophia Montgomery never thought she'd end up in this position. A mother of two, divorced, struggling to find her footing after her marriage crumbled, she was doing her best to provide a stable life for her kids. The world had a way of challenging her at every turn, but she was used to it. Life had been hard, but she had survived worse. She had been fighting battles since her ex-husband, Julian, had walked out on her years ago, leaving her to raise their children alone. He had the money, the status, the power, everything she didn't have, but she had her pride, her love for her kids, and her resilience. And that had always been enough. Until now. Sophia's car had broken down yet again. It was an old sedan, a hand-me-down from her aunt, and it had seen better days. She had been putting off buying a new car, knowing she couldn't afford one. But this time, she had no choice. The kids needed to get to school, she needed to get to work, and she couldn't keep relying on a car that barely ran. She had saved up some money from her part-time job at the local bookstore, and with a little extra help from her savings, she thought she might be able to make it work. She just needed a good, reliable car, nothing fancy, just something that could get her from point A to point B. The dealership she walked into wasn't one of those shiny, upscale places with marble floors and gleaming glass windows. It was a small, family-owned lot on the edge of town, tucked away behind a row of trees. It wasn't much, but Sophia had heard that they had affordable options, and that's all she needed. She had dressed as modestly as she could, keeping it simple in jeans and a sweater, her hair tied back in a ponytail. She didn't want to draw attention to herself. The last thing she needed was to feel out of place. As she walked into the dealership, the air smelled of leather and new tires. A few cars lined the lot, mostly used, some with minor dents, others barely new. She glanced at the prices posted on the windows and felt a wave of hope. This might work. A salesman approached her almost immediately, a tall man in his early 30s wearing a navy blue suit. He smiled in a way that felt too rehearsed, too fake. Sophia wasn't interested in small talk, so she cut to the chase. "I'm looking for something reliable, something I can afford," she said, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "Nothing too expensive, just something that will get me through the next few years until I can save up for something better." The salesman nodded, his smile widening. "Of course, ma'am. We've got plenty of options. Something in your price range, right? Let me show you a few cars that might suit your needs." Sophia followed him to a row of used cars, each one older than the last. As they walked, she glanced at the car's condition, dings in the doors, faded paint, and worn tires. It wasn't what she had hoped for, but it would work. She wasn't picky. She just needed something that ran. As the salesman pointed to a beige sedan, his tone suddenly shifted. "This one might be a good fit for you," he said, but there was an edge in his voice, a subtle undertone of condescension that Sophia didn't quite catch at first. She examined the car, nodding. It looked decent, if not a little worn, but she didn't mind. "How much?" The salesman glanced at her and hesitated. "It's a bit more than your usual used car, but I think you can make it work. It's priced at $12,000. Sophia's stomach sank. She had only saved up a fraction of that amount, and she certainly couldn't afford a loan. "That's more than I can afford," she said, trying to remain polite. "I was hoping for something in the $5,000 range." The salesman's eyes narrowed. He studied her for a moment, his smile faltering. He cleared his throat. "Well, ma'am, I'm not sure that's going to work for you. You might want to check out some of the lower-end cars over there," he said, gesturing toward the far side of the lot. Sophia's heart dropped. She felt a pang of embarrassment flood her chest. She had tried to stay confident, but now she felt like she was being dismissed. She wasn't a millionaire, she didn't have hundreds of thousands in the bank. But she was a mother who worked hard every day to keep her family afloat, and that should have been enough. She nodded, trying to maintain composure. "Thank you for your time," she said, turning away from the car and the salesman, her face flushed with humiliation. As she walked out of the dealership, she could feel his eyes on her. She was just another single mom, hoping for a break. But it seemed that the world wasn't willing to give her one. Sophia's heart ached as she got into her old car, the engine sputtering to life, barely able to keep up with the demands of the road. She had hoped for a chance, just one chance to show her kids that she could make things work, that she could provide for them. But that dream seemed just out of reach. The next day, something unimaginable happened. Sophia received a call from a number she didn't recognize. She picked up, half expecting it to be another collection agency or a bill she couldn't afford. But instead, it was the dealership. "Hello, Mrs. Montgomery? This is Mark from the dealership. I wanted to let you know that." He paused for a moment. "Actually, we've just had a change in ownership. The new owner is on his way, and I think he might be able to help you with your situation." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Change in ownership? I don't understand." "Well, the new owner is coming to the lot right now. Let's just say, he's a bit more flexible than we were." Confused but intrigued, Sophia decided to visit the dealership again, curious about what could have possibly changed in the span of one day. As she drove back to the dealership, she was shocked to see a gleaming Rolls-Royce parked in front of the lot. The sight of it almost took her breath away. She had never seen anything like it: luxury, elegance, and power all rolled into one. And standing next to it was Julian Montgomery, her ex-husband. Sophia froze, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The world around her seemed to slow down. What was he doing here? Stories like these show how the unexpected can change everything in a heartbeat. To see what happens next, subscribe to Expect Stories for more incredible tales of fate and fortune.